So Mike's hot.
I will.
You running live? You running live?
Go ahead and add Benny Franklin on that description. Please.
What's up, commission? What's going on? It's probably Jam the Fashionista. And I'm Young Strip on there, man. Young Strip. The commission. Radio show. Radio show. What's the commission?
20 seconds.
Yeah, I had him over there.
Yeah, that's what y'all talking about there.
And Derek Butts, since you win and introduce what's for us.
Okay. You take all of everything.
No, just introduce
5,
5.
4.
Commish Radio Show. Commish Radio Show back again. We were here. Well, if you have been following me around this morning, you've been following me since about 6 o'clock this morning. Want to send a shout out to all of those people that are listening in to us right now. Stephen Cobb over at Casserole Soul Cafe. That's where I normally get my food intake, over at Casserole Soul Cafe. I love the red beans and rice because it's nice. But you know, we got a lot of people listening in. We got Ray Shuford, who's listening in, Chaplain Ray Shuford of the Dallas Fire Department. Hey, you know, anytime that I need a ride to the studio, guess who I call? Don't call the police. I call the fire department. Fire. They come by and they pick me up. But that's real talk. That's real talk. You know, as you know, it's Saturday in Commission Nation. If you're following us on Twitter, it's Ed Gray 1906. And if you're following me on Twitter and Instagram, I say them both at the same time, Ed Gray 1906. Shout out to TCAC. That's the, it's the Alpha. We're having our convention, the Texas Coalition of Alpha Conferences, the Texas Conference of the Alphas in town. I'm getting all my acronyms all messed up, but that's all good. But it's all good because it's really icy cold out there, and that's the reason why, you know, I'm wearing this jacket, Alpha style. What am I doing? I'm lying. I would always be wearing a jacket anyway. But that's what we have right now. We have that going on. I'd like to send a special shout out. All of them are special shout outs to my partners, my media partners. The people who keep me going on WFAA, Inside Texas Politics, where you can catch me at 9 on 8. And also, if you are listening to Heaven 97 over the airwaves, Heaven 97, we were there earlier with Mr. Derek Butts, who was in the huddle with Chris Howell a couple of weeks back. And then we had Benny, Mr. Make It Happen, Franklin. He was there as well, and as you can see, he's right here with us here on our other show, which is the Commission Radio Show. North Dallas Gazette. Hello to Thurman Jones and the people over at the North Dallas Gazette. Pick up your copy of the North Dallas Gazette, in which you will be able to see I'm down and down on Trump again. How could I lift the guy up? I'm always going to down on Trump. So, you know, pick that copy of it up. North Dallas Gazette. And Monday Night Politics is coming up, folks. Monday Night Politics is coming up. And it seems like everybody is running for mayor. Everyone's running for mayor. And I will be one of the sponsors of Monday Night Politics. Pick up the Dallas Examiner. They are the ones that's putting on Monday Night Politics. Pick that up. We need to keep all of the media engagements in tight. I would say Trump tight, but I'm not even going there. I'm not going there. Because I have a better sense of where this country is going. That being said, I would like to go ahead and make an announcement again to those people who are listening in. Like Miss Nolivette Milligan, how you doing? I would like to go ahead and make an announcement to all of those people listening that the Commish Radio Show, in concert with some other individuals, and some of them may be right here beside me, we are going to be covering the trip to Dallas the trip to Dallas by, well, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State, Colin Powell. That's right. So we have that coming up. So that's what we got going on the Commission Nation. But you know, last couple of weeks back, we had In the Huddle with Chris Howell. If you think I brand myself, Chris Howell does that. I know once I was saying In the Huddle, he said, no, it's In the Huddle with Chris Howell. So we're glad to have Chris Howell here in the huddle. What's going on?
Ed, I am extremely excited to be here, and I'm telling you, I was trying to find it in my phone. I shared it with Benny before. The reason you're right, it is partly branding. I'm just going to confess that. It is partly branding. But the other thing is, there's a gentleman named... Shamelessly, you're absolutely right. There's two things happening there. First of all, I had a program similar, and I didn't know enough then that you needed to secure the name. And then others started using the name, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I recently learned that there was a young man named Chris Broussard who actually has the huddle for men. So we have to make sure that we distinguish ours by saying In the Huddle with Chris Howell. So it's not just about me wanting to promote myself.
So it's like trademark.
Yeah, In the Huddle with Chris Howell is because it has my name.
Right.
Yeah, so that is.
It's like McDonald's and McDowell's. That's what it is.
Stop.
No, but Chris Howell, In the Huddle with Chris Howell is the parent brand.
They have the Big Mac. We have the Big Mick. You know.
Yeah.
So Benny, man.
But In the Huddle with Chris Howell is the real deal.
All right, so Benny, you were a part of that, man.
You
were co-hosting that day with me, man.
Well, you know what? I'm really grateful that Chris allows me to hang along. He really elevates my IQ.
Man, so as you folks can tell, today's gonna be a very interesting show. So do stick around because it's getting real deep up in here.
We got the camera angle still on three of us, right?
We're really honored. You know, we there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, putting the huddle to work, and Chris doesn't know. You know, Chris and I we talk about it, and Chris, I don't know how he does it. You know, but he ends up doing it. And I got a couple of questions. So why In the Huddle, Chris?
In the Huddle, Benny, is, I guess that's a great question. It's because, first of all, let me back up a little bit and tell you about that previous program I talked about before. We used to do a program similar from 2004 to 2007 entitled Man Talk. And I did that for 3.5 years, and it was the second Wednesday of every month we brought men together at the Potter's House of Dallas to talk about issues that men face.
And I remember I was a guest host on that.
You were. So you've seen the journey.
Yes.
And you also remember that in that meeting we would have so many men come from across the Metroplex, and they talked about the fact that many of them were men that were in church, but they were still lacking direction in terms of those practical things that we as men face and how to deal with those everyday issues. So as we brought men together and started talking about those issues, we actually learned that men were gravitating, they were really looking for something such as this, and there was a need for this. So we went off the scene for a few years, and then here the last couple of years, I've really just been observing men and really seeing that there is a need again for this, because men have become passive, men have become, I guess, depressed, frustrated, and taken a backseat in life in many cases, particularly us as African American men. I think we really need to step up to the plate. So In the Huddle serves as that platform to really help to empower men, to encourage men, in hopes that they will become engaged in life again, in their family, in their communities, and in their careers.
You know, I had a question to add to that. You know, the venue this time was at City Hall, which I thought was great. Everybody really liked it. It had some presence to it. It had some history to it. But why did you select City Hall?
I believe that an event should not only be an event, but it should be an experience. And I believe within the Huddle, what we aim to do is to take men one step further and to give them exposure. The first In the Huddle meeting we did August of last year, we did it at the Renaissance Hotel. That was to expose men to a hotel of that setting that maybe most men wouldn't ordinarily go to. We wanted them to be exposed to that in hopes that if they go there, get exposed to it, they will then go back there with their wives and enjoy it there. In the City Hall was distinctly chosen because of the fact that we were talking about social responsibility. And if we're going to talk about manhood and social responsibility, what better place to do it at Dallas City Hall?
And it was in the flag room of the Dallas City Hall as well.
Absolutely.
So you had all these flags and everything, and you had the Mayor Pro Tem, Casey Thomas, who was one of the speakers too.
Absolutely. When you point out those flags were significant because they talked about the unity aspect of it. Because this is not, In the Huddle is not just for African American men, while of course that's the majority of the audience, but we aim to service all men. So that flag talked about the unity part of it, but that room in particular talked about the fact that so many decisions come from Dallas City Hall that affects all of us. Whether you live in Dallas or not, decisions are made out of that room that affect you. So we want men to get exposed to City Hall because if a man had never visited it before, we hope that now that he has, with attending in the hall, that he'll then go back and take part in issues that come out of that particular room.
You know, something interesting, the diversity in the crowd was very interesting and very important. We had a number of police officers in there, and I think once they saw one of the guest panelists, Daryl Thornton, who was a former police officer
Yeah, right.
and an FBI agent, I think when he announced that, I was noticing the body language of the police officers there in the room. It was they just took on another whole constant. They just relaxed. They were engaged. They were leaning forward.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, they were really connected with the program. So, I thought that was very significant having them there.
I would tell you, really, when they walked in, because there were 3 police officers all in uniform.
Right.
When they walked in, I thought they were really just part of the security that Dallas
I
City
thought
Hall
they
had
were.
hired.
Right.
It wasn't until later that I actually asked my wife about it. She said, no, they had actually registered to attend.
Really?
So they had registered to attend, and they actually came in uniform. And like I said, they sat there the entire program and really enjoyed it. And that's what we want. I mean, even in those police officers, you had a diversity because one of them was Asian, the other 2 guys were Caucasian. So that's what you want. You want that diversity aspect.
So, what did you want the men to leave in the huddle with?
In that particular session, first of all, I want us to
I wanted from City Hall, from that particular session.
I really-
social responsibilities.
The social responsibility part is one of it. But again, I want us as men to really start to define manhood as opposed to relying on everyone else to define what manhood is for us. But then the other part to it is there's so many things that are happening right here in Dallas that if we as men would stand up and get engaged in some of these things, we could really change the atmosphere, we could really change the dynamic if we would lend our voice to it. So I hope that men walked away from that session with a better sense of understanding what social responsibility is and how they actually can play a role in getting involved with it. You talked about Casey Thomas being there. Casey Thomas gave us a number of initiatives that he's a part of, that he has vacant spots for men to get involved with, and I really hope that men take advantage of that meeting.
Yeah, he was kind of hard for you to interview at first, wasn't he? He took one question and he pretended like he was in church and went 15 minutes or something.
Well, I'm understanding that sometimes when you get in a setting like that, you don't really know what the expectation is.
And he felt
Yeah.
comfortable because he was at home. This is where he worked at. City
Right.
Hall. So
You
yeah.
could tell he was really at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
and
was.
he just wanted the
Which was
guys to know
great.
his background. And I didn't take any offense to it.
I'm be MCing for Casey. So Casey, I was just playing, man. I was just playing. But the deal that I did notice about that though, you had a broad stream of people. You consistently talk about health, men's health. Could you go into detail more so about that?
I think that's one of the things that we worry about most. We worry about our health, and we're always self-diagnosing, but we rarely actually go to the doctor and actually get a professional diagnosis of what's going on with our bodies. So I think if we continue to bring that up in our settings with men would be then become more comfortable actually going to the doctor. Because I will tell you myself, first sign of something wrong, I'm going to the doctor's office. I'm scheduling my own appointment, I'm getting in there. But I know with most guys, that's not the case. You heard it in the example that we heard from Clifford Armstead, how he talked about, here he is bleeding from his breast, and he just puts a Band-Aid on it and think that's going to fix the problem, only to later find out he had breast cancer. So again, it's very
Wait a minute,
important.
hold on. A man had breast cancer.
Yeah.
I want everyone. I was there, so I already know.
I'm like, you heard it right?
I already know. But I just want to slow the roll down because there's a message that I want all of the people who are listening in right now to understand about the breast cancer component. Could you talk more to that?
Absolutely. Again, we had a man there, Clifford Armstead, who shared his testimony, and I think it was great for guys to hear this. I'd actually interviewed Clifford about a year ago, and it was for a breast cancer awareness campaign for Methodist Hospital. And he talked about the fact that he's sitting and he's eating his lunch, and he looked at his shirt, and he noticed there's a stain on his shirt. He's thinking, did I drop something on my shirt? Where's the stain come from? Only to find out later when he got home that he was actually bleeding from his breast. This brother allowed this to go on for a week before finally his wife said, you know what, no, we're taking you to the doctor. And when he went to the doctor, he found out he had breast cancer. If you're bleeding from your breast, no, you don't wait another day. Get to the doctor. So maybe you're not bleeding from your breast. Maybe it's something going on with your leg, or maybe it's something going on in your abdomen. What we're encouraging men to do, man, if something is abnormal, get to the doctor, get it checked out.
And that's so significant because we have advanced so much through technology and through information in medicine that early detection is a big deal. You can treat that. The quicker you can get it treated, the better things are going to be. You can get a lot of stuff handled really fast and save a lot of lives just by getting there early. We have the technology, we have the means and the knowledge to be able to fix and cure a lot of things today that we didn't do even 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I just think it's irresponsible. Ed, you asked that question. It's part of being responsible. I think it's irresponsible to have that many men together in a room and not bring up things that you know that are going to affect their lives. We talk about your health. We talk about your family. We talk about the fact that you need somebody in your corner. Every man needs a coach. There's somebody who's speaking into his life in a positive manner. And everybody needs a good friend. You need a friend who's going to tell you when you're wrong. So those are the things that we just really try to encourage when we have them in any setting.
Well, you had prostate cancer there as well. You didn't do any prostate cancer talk, but you have the pamphlets out for that as well.
Correct, because Clifford Armstead is a part of a group of men who have all suffered some form of cancer, and those men are a support group. So when they come together, they bring out all the material to, of course, expose us to all of it. His personal testimony is from breast cancer.
So for the people who weren't there Saturday, which I thought all of the subject matters were pretty good. Can you elaborate on defining social responsibility? And I want you to elaborate because when you and I first talked about the conversation, and we talked about, hey, we want to speak on social responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of played it off like I really knew
I heard
what
that
you
later.
Yeah, that you know, like I really knew where you were going with this and what was going on, and I was like, okay, what does he mean by social
How
responsibility?
many times you do that to us, man?
Well, hey, I've gotten pretty good at it, you know? Rolling with it.
Oh, yeah.
So in my travels, you know, I travel across the country. I was telling Chris that, you know, I was actually on the plane, in the airport, because I talked to everybody, and I was asking them to give me their interpretation of, you know, how do you define social responsibility? And no two people said the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why we decided to go with a diverse panel that had a different perspective on social responsibility. So I'd like for you to kind of just share that with the audience.
And I think you guys did a great job on the panel of helping the men to understand it. But when I actually put that topic in place, it really was to get us as men to understand that personal social responsibility. Many times when we hear that term, it's really more from a corporate standpoint. We talk about corporations and their responsibility to help everybody go green and to take care of the environment, things of that nature, which I think are all very important. But when it comes to social responsibility as it relates to us as men, I think many times we'll see things on the news and we'll dismiss those things as they don't pertain to us. If it doesn't affect my family, my children, my community, I don't have anything to do with that. That's none of my business. But I'm really trying to help us as men to change that mindset, that there are some things, again, that if we lend our voice to it, lend our presence to it, we can change. So if you see something happening in the Dallas-Fort Worth community, I think if you feel passionate about it, you should in some way lend your voice to help try and right the wrong in that particular case.
Which is what social responsibility is about.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that you understand that what you do, what I do, what we do,
It affects us.
it affects everybody.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's how the EPA was birthed,
Right.
through social responsibility.
I think we got one more question. You guys are doing great. I don't need me, man. I'm getting ready to go down.
Well, in fact, I thought this was going to be the takeover anyway. You weren't even going to be
Yeah,
here.
but Benny said, man, come on by.
But I think what happened, we put a little fancy flyer out there saying we were taking over his show, and they was like, "No, I ain't going for that." But no, seriously, on social
We got
responsibility.
3 minutes, and then we go to a break for a music drop.
You do a great job of that. I mean, again, when we talk about social responsibility, what you do with your program, well, the family of radios that you have, the radio network that you have, with all your different stations and what you do with WFAA, that's a great example of showing men how to lend their voice to issues. So I think what you do when we talk about what each one of us does, that affects what other men will do. When they see someone else doing it, then they will feel more comfortable doing it as well.
Very well said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Strip, you know what? We are going to be partying in March. I know we're going to go ahead and play a couple of drops. We got a phone call, or shall I say a text, earlier this week. Shucky Ducky's going to be in at the Arlington Improv, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be in the Arlington Improv, located in the Highlands,
All right.
next weekend.
Next weekend.
Shucky, good for
Shucky
Shucky.
Ducky.
Shucky back on the scene.
Shucky Ducky.
Shucky Ducky ain't never left the scene,
Well,
man. You know?
he's back in rotation.
Yeah, back in rotation. And then we got the Arlington Music Festival, which is going March 1st and 2nd. So we want to keep you informed. And as you know, on the Commish Radio Show, we play the best local music. That way, Facebook can't X us out. You know, that little deal what y'all say, and you put on there, I don't own the rights to the music. We own the rights to this music, you know, hey. And we've had to,
Ownership is important.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we you know, because last week, it was last month, we had War on, you know, the world is a ghetto. We had Dude on, you know, if you're following our social media, you'll know that we do a show on Wednesdays, the Wednesday special. So the Wednesday specials we doing that, and we lead into War. But right now, let's go ahead and play those drops, and when we come right back, we will conclude with the interview with in the huddle with Chris Howard. I believe he put that on his birth certificate right now. When they
good idea. I haven't, but
reached
I will.
that, when they went, when they asked for President Obama's long form birth certificate, I'm gonna ask for yours. It's probably gonna say in the huddle with Chris Howard.
Wait till I run for
Hashtag.
president or something
Yes,
of that nature.
and then and then Benny, Mr. Make It Happen Franklin. You gotta put that Mr. in there, cause on the other show I said Benny Make It Happen Franklin.
No, I told him I had a surname.
No,
see that?
Mr. Always with the
I like
respect. But stay tuned for the next, the next segment of the Commish Radio Show.
Hey, whenever I want good Cajun food, I go to Thibodeau's, located at 107 North Cedar Ridge in Duncanville, Texas. They're really hot, just like the Commish Radio Show in Thibodeau's. Hot as this gumbo. We will see you later at Thibodeau's.